When soldiers marched through rain-soaked battlefields in the 1940s, they didn't have the luxury of synthetic waterproof jackets or ultralight tarps. Nylon and polyester weren't yet standard issue. In fact, they were still experimental materials reserved for parachutes and specialized equipment. Instead, troops relied on something older, and in many cases far more effective oilcloth. This centuries-old material, perfected during World War II, was the backbone of field shelters, rain capes, ground sheets, and tenting. It could repel water like a modern tarp, endure abrasion, and last years without rot. And while today we reach for coated nylon or polyurethane gear, history quietly reminds us that oilcloth made from natural fibres and oil could still outperform modern synthetics in toughness and longevity when properly made. The story of oilcloth began long before the war, but World War II made it indispensable. The concept of waterproofing fabric with oil goes back centuries. Sailors in the 1700s noticed that flax sails treated with linseed oil shed rain and wind better than untreated ones. Over time, this technique evolved into the production of oilcloth, cotton or linen canvas, impregnated with natural drying oils, waxes, and sometimes resin. By the time World War II erupted, oilcloth had become a military essential. Armies around the world issued oilcloth for nearly every outdoor function imaginable. The British used oiled canvas for ground sheets, ponchos, and trench capes. The Americans used it for bedrolls, tent floors, and weatherproof map covers. Even vehicle covers and gun wraps were made of heavy oiled duck canvas that resisted rain, mud, and mildew. What made it remarkable wasn't just its waterproofing, it was how it breathed. Unlike modern synthetics, which can trap condensation, oilcloth allowed slow vapor exchange, keeping soldiers' shelters dry on the inside while repelling rain on the outside. The key to oilcloth's power was the chemistry of its finish. World War II oilcloth wasn't a crude layer of grease or wax. It was a carefully balanced coating of boiled linseed oil, turpentine, and natural resins that cured into a tough, flexible membrane. When applied to tightly woven cotton duck or linen canvas, the oil penetrated the fibres, then oxidized and hardened, forming a water-resistant barrier that bonded with the fabric itself. Unlike synthetic coatings that eventually peel or delaminate, this process actually transformed the textile into a different material altogether, half fabric, half armour. This is why oilcloths from the 1940s can still be found intact today. Their surface may darken with age, but they remain remarkably resistant to water. Soldiers used them as shelters in tropical storms, ground covers in flooded trenches, and even makeshift stretchers when nothing else was available. In field reports, many described oilcloth tarps lasting multiple campaigns with minimal degradation, a durability that, honestly, modern ultralight gear just can't match. Wartime shortages forced resourcefulness that modern preppers can, well, definitely learn from. One of the most fascinating aspects of World War II oilcloth production was how civilians and soldiers improvised when supply lines broke down. With commercial waterproof fabrics reserved for the front, people began making their own. The same formula used for military gear could be replicated at home boiled linseed oil thinned with turpentine, applied in several coats to tightly woven cotton canvas, with ample drying time between applications. For anyone today who values preparedness or off-grid living, That's not just a historical curiosity, it's practical knowledge. Making oilcloth is a skill that blends chemistry with craftsmanship. Start by choosing untreated, heavy cotton canvas. Duck cloth or sailcloth works best. Mix 1 part boiled linseed oil with 1 part mineral spirits or turpentine. Lay the fabric flat outdoors or in a well-ventilated area, then brush or rub the oil mixture evenly into the surface until it's saturated. Allow it to dry for at least 24 hours, then apply a second coat. The cloth will darken, stiffen slightly, and develop a faint sheen, the mark of a proper waterproof finish. Once cured, it's ready to use as a tarp, shelter cover, or ground mat. The key is, well, patience. If you rush the process, oilcloth just won't cure properly, and it'll stay tacky. Definitely not what you want. But when you take your time and do it right, it turns into a breathable, rot-resistant and repairable material that can last for decades. You know, a lot of modern reenactors and bushcraft enthusiasts still swear by homemade oilcloth. That's because if it gets damaged, you can just repair it by reheating and reapplying oil. No fancy adhesives or special coatings needed. So, why does oilcloth still outperform nylon in real survival scenarios? Well, modern nylon and polyester gear might be lighter, sure, but there are trade-offs. Synthetic coatings like polyurethane or silicone, they can break down from UV exposure or just from being folded too much, and that causes little micro cracks that start to leak. Oilcloth, on the other hand, can actually self-heal in small tears as the oil moves through the fibres. It's naturally resistant to mildew, and since it's made from organic material, it doesn't get that brittleness you see in old plastic gear. There's another critical advantage: stealth. Back in WWII, oilcloth's matte surface didn't reflect light, so it was perfect for staying hidden out in the field. Plus, it dampened sound. A soldier crawling under an oiled canvas shelter wouldn't make those crinkling noises you get with modern synthetics. For anyone today who needs stealth or low-visibility shelters like hunters, bushcrafters or survivalists, that's still a huge benefit. And what's more, oilcloth can be retreated as many times as you need, unlike synthetic fabrics that lose their waterproof coatings for good once they wear out. Oilcloth connects us to a lost craftsmanship of durability and self-reliance. There's something, you know, profoundly satisfying about learning the same material science that sustained generations through war and hardship. Oilcloth was born from necessity, refined by sailors, perfected by armies, and nearly forgotten in the rush toward convenience. But for those who understand its properties, it remains a superior alternative for rugged, long-term gear. Today, reviving this old technique doesn't just mean making a tarp. It means reclaiming a mindset. The act of creating oilcloth teaches patience, respect for materials, and an appreciation for simplicity that endures where technology often fails. Whether you're building a stormproof lean-to, reinforcing a tent floor, or crafting a waterproof bedroll, oilcloth offers a blend of toughness and authenticity that no synthetic can match. The WWII Oilcloth reminds us that the best survival gear doesn't come from a factory. It comes from knowledge. During World War II, oilcloth kept men alive through monsoons, mud and snow. It proved that protection doesn't require complexity, just understanding. If modern gear vanished tomorrow, those who knew how to oil a piece of cloth would still have shelter, concealment and warmth. That's not nostalgia. That's survival wisdom. If you found this exploration of WWII Oilcloth and its forgotten craftsmanship valuable, make sure to subscribe to In the Beginning for more deep dives into history's most practical innovations. Share this with someone who values durability over convenience, and keep the knowledge alive. Because the tools that carried soldiers through history weren't just artifacts, they were lessons in how to outlast the storm.